Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we truly cut through the noise, stack up the source material from the hard data to the raw, visceral fan reaction, and figure out what's really going on behind the headline result.
And today, we are absolutely diving into a club that was, well, teetering on the edge of some pretty unwelcome history, and somehow they managed to pull themselves back.
We are, of course, talking about Liverpool and their crucial, high-pressure 2-0 victory against West Ham United on November 30th.
It's just so important to frame this one properly. You have to understand the context of, well, pure, unadulterated dread. This was not just a routine mid-season fixture.
No, not at all.
Liverpool went into that match at the London Stadium following a run of form that was, frankly, catastrophic for a club of their stature.
Catastrophic is exactly the right word. We aren't talking about a little dip here, are we? This was a full-blown crisis of confidence. I mean, it was marked by 2 consecutive Premier League games where they were just soundly beaten 3-0.
And not just by anyone. First by Manchester City, which, can happen.
Right, you can almost forgive that one.
But then, and I think this is the one that really hurt, by Nottingham Forest. That kind of result is so much more demoralizing. The defensive solidity that the fans have come to expect was, well, it was just non-existent.
And the history books were literally being dusted off, ready to write them into a very, very uncomfortable chapter.
That's spot on. The records show that Liverpool had not conceded 3 or more goals in 3 consecutive top-flight league games since way, way back in 1955.
1955. You have to just let that sink in for a moment.
I mean, think about that time frame. That's pre-European dominance. That's almost 70 years ago. To be facing a record that old just tells you the scale of the psychological pressure that was on that squad and on the manager.
So the stakes were sky high. And that means the mission for us today is very clear. We need to analyze the BBC statistics and, crucially, synthesize that almost chaotic emotional release that we saw captured in the fan forums.
To do what exactly?
To determine if this 2-0 victory against West Ham, ending the losing streak, getting that clean sheet signals a genuine structural and mental turning point for Arne Slot's tenure, or, and this is the big question, if it just papered over some very persistent, deep-seated cracks.
And I think the immediate fan reaction is probably the most reliable metric of that pressure. It tells you everything. These are people who watch week in, week out, and they were emotionally drained.
Oh, completely.
The quotes we're pulling from the moment that final whistle blew tell the entire story. Just listen to this one. "We've won a game of football," followed by 4 crying emojis.
That says it all, doesn't it? The relief.
And then this perfect summary. Holy heck, stating the obvious, but we needed this so much. That relief, that was the primary emotion. It was far, far more powerful than any sophisticated analysis of the performance itself.
It speaks volumes. It really does. It suggests the result was purely about survival. They just had to break that awful LWLL form guide that preceded this game.
They had to.
They had to stop the defensive collapse. And, to their credit, they did. So let's delve into how exactly they managed to get it done against a West Ham side that, well, weren't exactly flying high themselves.
When we look at the pure match specifics, we have to start by acknowledging the opponent, don't we? West Ham were sitting 17th in the table.
Right near the bottom.
Exactly. And while, a Premier League fixture is never easy, especially away from home, this was, on paper at least, the kind of game Liverpool should be winning comfortably if they have any European aspirations at all.
And yet, for 45 very tense minutes, it looked like it was just more of the same. That 0-0 scoreline at halftime must have been absolutely agonizing for the traveling support and for the manager.
Oh, you can just imagine it. You've just come off 2 3-0 defeats. Every single time the opposition gets anywhere near your box, the nerves must be completely frayed.
And the longer that game stays level, the more the ghosts of those recent losses start to creep back in. You start thinking, oh no, here we go again.
The breakthrough, when it finally arrived in the 60th minute, was such a profound psychological moment. Alexander Isak scored the first goal, assisted by Cody Gakpo.
And in that single action, the entire risk profile of the game just dramatically shifted. It allowed Liverpool to settle back just a little bit, defend a lead rather than anxiously chasing a winner.
And let's not undersell the monumental importance of the clean sheet here. We mentioned that 1955 record, didn't we?
Yes. Avoiding conceding 3 goals for the 3rd straight time was absolutely critical. But more than that, just keeping a 0 next to West Ham's name on the scoreboard was the confidence injection that defense desperately, desperately needed.
It validates the whole tactical setup, doesn't it? Even if the performance wasn't, particularly stellar.
Exactly.
Confidence in a defensive unit is often built up quite slowly, bit by bit, but it can be completely destroyed in a single match. After letting in 6 goals in 2 games, securing a clean sheet is a foundation they can actually build on. It means the crisis point is over, at least for now.
Okay, so let's turn to the underlying data, because this is where we start to see if the win was, based on a bit of luck or on genuine dominance. Looking at the overall match metrics, Liverpool certainly asserted control in some areas.
They did. They dominated possession with 55.4% against West Ham's 44.6%. That's sort of expected, but it's the quality of that possession that really matters.
And the quality of chances certainly favored Liverpool. Their shot accuracy tells a really compelling story. It was 4 shots on target for Liverpool compared to, 0 for West Ham.
0. That's the key number. West Ham simply failed to test the goalkeeper, Alisson, even once. This just confirms that the defensive structure, regardless of who was playing in it, held firm where it really, really needed to.
But the real deep dive metric that we need to talk about is expected goals, or XG. This gives us a much more objective measure of the quality of scoring opportunities that were created.
And here, Liverpool registered 0.9044 XG versus a really paltry 0.248 for West Ham.
Right, so for listeners who might be a bit less familiar with XG, can you just quickly break down what that 0.9 really means?
Of course. Essentially, if you played that exact set of chances 100 times over, Liverpool would be expected to score about 0.9 goals, which means, they were probably slightly fortunate to score 2.
A bit lucky then.
A little. But the critical takeaway isn't the 0.9. It's the fact that West Ham's chances totaled less than a quarter of a potential goal. They created almost nothing.
So even if Liverpool only scored 2 goals from chances that were worth less than 1 expected goal, which does suggest some pretty clinical finishing or maybe a touch of luck, the victory was fundamentally deserved because West Ham created, next to nothing.
It confirms the win was deserved, even if it was a bit narrow. And crucially, it highlights the defensive success. They just denied the opposition any meaningful penetration. This is structurally sound, which is exactly what Arne Slot needed to demonstrate after the collapses against Forest and City.
And sticking with the data, there's this fascinating little statistical quirk that one of the fan threads pointed out. Liverpool maintained their record of 0 draws this season.
It's mad, isn't it?
13 matches played, 7 wins, 6 losses. As the fan put it, that is blooming wild. I'm paraphrasing a little.
That winner-bust mentality is genuinely unusual in modern football. It speaks to a team that perhaps hasn't quite mastered the art of grinding out results when they aren't playing well.
It's all or nothing.
It is. When things click, they win. When the system or the confidence falters, they lose completely. There is no middle ground, no scrappy one-all draw to stabilize things. This latest victory, by being a clean sheet victory, it halted the losing trend. But that overall volatility remains a huge element of this team's identity under Slot.
And he needed this result, didn't he, to validate his choices and silence the immediate speculation about his job security.
That pressure on Slot was palpable. After 3 successive defeats, you need some proof of concept. And the fact they got the clean sheet, the 3 points, and broke that historically bad defensive streak, it just gives him the breathing room he needed, even if the result was secured against 17th-placed opposition.
Okay, so let's transition from the raw data to the individual performances. Because if the clean sheet was gold, then Joe Gomez's performance at right back was, it was the single biggest positive discussed across every single fan forum we analyzed. The hype was just immense.
It wasn't just hype, though, was it? It was relief mixed with tactical validation. Gomez's return fundamentally altered the defensive balance of the whole team.
How so?
Well, fans described his impact as making a huge difference, but the key quote for me, which speaks to that tactical structure, was this one. Having an actual defender playing right back is night and day.
I want to focus on that phrase, night and day. What exactly does that imply? It suggests that before Gomez, Liverpool were using players at right back who were maybe a bit more attack-minded, perhaps pushing too high, leaving gaps.
That's precisely it. If you look at the players who previously occupied that position, whether it was an overly aggressive, inverted wingback or just a player struggling with fitness or form, they were essentially a defensive liability.
But Gomez is different.
Completely. Gomez, when he's fully fit, is an archetypal defender. His positional discipline is excellent. He doesn't just bomb forward relentlessly, which means that when the ball is turned over, he's already positioned deeper, forming a genuine back four with the center backs.
And that stability provided some crucial collateral benefits. I mean, one source specifically pointed out that he covers a lot of Ibu's weaknesses, which is referring to Konaté. Can you analyze that partnership for us? How does Gomez at right back actually alleviate pressure on the center back next to him?
It's a great question. Konaté, for all his physical brilliance and his speed, can sometimes be a bit overly aggressive or get caught out of position when he's tracking a wide runner.
Right, I've seen that.
So if you have an aggressive right back or a right back who is pushed high up into midfield, Konaté then has to cover that massive channel of space behind him. It's a huge ask.
But with Gomez there.
With Gomez there, staying deep and wide, he acts as the safety net. He covers that space between Konaté and the touchline. This allows Konaté to focus purely on central defense and his aerial duels, and it just reduces his risk exposure dramatically. The defense, as a whole unit, looked so much more solid with Joe.
So the stability of the entire backline is basically anchored by one single positional change. It's amazing. And yet, Gomez wasn't just a defensive anchor in this game.
No, he wasn't.
He managed to have a significant hand in both goals, according to the fan sentiment, providing a crucial assist that instantly earned him the rather euphoric fan nickname, Assist Miss.
The irony is just delicious, isn't it? A player who is being lauded purely for his defensive discipline is suddenly being nicknamed for his offensive output. We even saw sources mention that one goal originated from his long throw and the other was his direct assist.
It just speaks to his commitment and his energy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's finding ways to contribute to goals, even if it's not through, dazzling skill, but through persistence and set-piece utility.
And the level of praise was just overwhelming. We're seeing titles like Joe Gomez and Gomez Supremacy culminating in that highly ambitious, probably tongue-in-cheek claim, the best RB in the world, convince me otherwise.
It's just pure emotional release, isn't it? After a period of such defensive turmoil, the fans are elevating the one player who brought immediate, tangible solidity.
It's the instant hero narrative, and it's completely driven by relief. But we do have to address the constant underlying tension in all the sources. The caveat is always there.
You mean his fitness?
Exactly. Gomez is a great player when fit, but he is repeatedly described, sadly, as being made of paper due to his recurring, often debilitating injuries.
And that context is absolutely vital. He missed the prior match due to a fitness issue. We read he needed an injection just to be ready for this one. That risk factor, that he might just break down at any moment, is why every great performance he has is met with both celebration and this acute anxiety from the fan base.
This is the fragility we spoke of earlier. His magnificent performance against West Ham is a bit of a double-edged sword for Slot. On one hand, he's found the solution to his defensive woes.
But on the other?
On the other, that solution relies entirely on the fitness of a player who has a documented history of requiring extensive recovery periods. If Gomez were to be unavailable for the upcoming crucial fixtures, Slot would have to revert to the very system that just shipped 6 goals in 2 games.
So what's the message to the manager?
The message to Slot is clear. Maximize Gomez's availability because the defensive system desperately needs him in that disciplined role.
It sets up a really high-stakes gamble for him. Do you play Gomez in every game possible because his impact is still massive, or do you try and manage his minutes obsessively, risking a weaker defense in the process? The immediate success of a system as at right back now defines the defensive blueprint for the entire team.
So if Joe Gomez was the unifying hero of the day, then Cody Gakpo was, he was the deep dive's biggest contradiction, and perhaps the most confusing strategic dilemma for the manager.
This is the Gakpo paradox in its purest form. How can a player deliver 2 decisive goal contributions, a goal and an assist, yet be so widely panned as being, detrimental to the team's overall flow?
It's a real head-scratcher.
Let's start with the critics, because their comments are absolutely scathing. We saw claims that he dropped a 310. A 310 player doesn't usually get a goal and an assist, does he?
Well, that 3/10 rating is likely based on all the underlying metrics that fans track visually, even without the official data. Things like failed progressive passes, poor positional discipline when he's trying to link up with the midfield, a high turnover rate in non-threatening areas, or just a perceived lack of urgency.
And what about the fan who called him the most fraudulent player of all time?
Well, that's obviously hyperbole, but they're speaking to that sense of frustration, that feeling that he disrupts the rhythm of the team more often than he enhances it.
And the most cutting piece of analysis for me was the suggestion that Liverpool would have won 4-0 with any other player in his spot. That suggests that fans view his goal and assist as just individual flashes of brilliance or maybe luck, rather than the product of good team play.
They see him as a confusing player who is often just bang average and who uses those goal contributions as a way to distract from his general deficiencies.
That term, bang average, is crucial, isn't it? It implies inconsistency and a lack of influence in that crucial middle third of the pitch. He doesn't seem to knit the play together like a Wirtz or control the tempo. He just delivers in spasms.
He does. But let's pivot to his defenders, because Gakpo's camp did have a case to make. They specifically noted he did very well defensively today, which suggests a commendable work rate and effort, especially tracking back.
And ultimately, Arne Slot is a manager who needs results, pure and simple. Gakpo's output, you can't deny it, it rewarded the manager's decision to start him. As one fan very grudgingly admitted, as annoying as it is, this is exactly why Gakpo starts.
Because even when he's playing poorly, he delivers the tangible numbers that win you football matches.
Exactly. This goal and assist were celebrated by others who explicitly wanted to shut up the haters, and they were embracing the irony of it all. This one quote sums it up. Objectively funny that Gakpo gets the goal and assist despite everyone barking at him.
It's the ultimate I told you so moment for the manager, isn't it?
It is. So we've got this huge strategic decision for Slot here that really defines his short-term future. Gakpo's goal and assist performance. Despite the poor display in the middle third, it all but guarantees that he will never see the bench in the immediate future.
And this buys Slot time. Because, pragmatically, right now, results are all that matter.
So the strategic question for Slot is this, isn't it? Do you prioritize the player who delivers the end product, the goals and assists, even if they slow down the overall process? Or do you prioritize the process and the flow, hoping that the end product will eventually follow?
And the sources suggest Slot is choosing outcome over aesthetic, at least while his job is under this much pressure. The critics are right to worry that this goal just papers over cracks, because if Gakpo stops scoring, the frustration with his general play will reach a critical mass all over again.
And all of this discussion was framed by the elephant not in the room, Mohamed Salah. The talisman was either benched or unavailable, which was noted by fans simply as no Salah, and the biggest prize is Salah didn't even come on.
And that absence just opened up a highly controversial debate among the fans. The most explosive comment we saw was the suggestion that we play better without Salah.
Wow.
Now, that speaks to a deep underlying frustration with dependency, not necessarily with Salah himself.
And that idea was immediately contested, thankfully, by fans pointing out the obvious counterargument. This was West Ham, 17th in the table. You just can't make sweeping generalizations about playing better without your star player based on one 2-0 win against weak opposition.
Of course not. The reality is that Salah's absence forced the team to find goals from other sources, which, to their credit, they did. But to suggest a team plays better without one of the most prolific goal scorers in the league is just a sign of how desperate fans are for a change in momentum or system. They're willing to question anything and everything to find a route out of the slump.
And Gakpo benefited from that structural adjustment and took his chance. But the paradox of his poor performance remains Slot's major challenge moving forward. Shifting focus now to the genuine long-term bright spots in the attack, we saw two players whose performances suggest the future structure might actually be taking shape: Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz. Let's start with Isak, who finally broke his duck.
This was such a cathartic moment for him, wasn't it? Securing his first goal for Liverpool in the Premier League in the 60th minute, and it was described as a brilliant finish, which is exactly what he needs to build his reputation on.
Breaking that scoring duck is perhaps the single biggest confidence boost a striker can receive, especially one who arrived with such high anticipation.
And he showed great self-awareness afterwards as well. In his post-match comments, Isak acknowledged that he is not near his best yet. That kind of humility and accountability, it's a very encouraging sign for a player who needs to establish himself in this team.
And the context surrounding his arrival and his early performance is just incredibly harsh. We need to remember the historical anomaly he was facing.
It's an unbelievable stat. Isak became the first player since 1906. Just think about the statistical rarity of that. To lose each of his first 4 top-flight league starts for the club. He was carrying the weight of a century-old individual losing streak.
Wow. That statistic completely reframes his first goal, doesn't it? This wasn't just a goal. It was the breaking of a monumental historic personal curse tied directly to the team's abysmal form. That mental hurdle is gone now.
Exactly. That goal and the win that came with it must be monumentally important for his confidence. And of course, the fans immediately began drawing connections between him and the other major attacking star, Wirtz, predicting that the link-up between them is going to yield many, many goals.
Which speaks to the perceived quality of their dynamic.
It does, and that brings us perfectly to Florian Wirtz. His progression seems to be the quiet success story of the season so far. Fans hailed this as definitely his best PL performance for sure, marking a really clear and important progression in his adaptation to the English game.
The positive signs were numerous from what we read. Observers noted that his passing and his off-the-ball runs were visibly better, more intelligent than in his previous outings. Wirtz really seems to be finding his feet in the rhythm of the Premier League.
But there is one fascinating, highly specific detail in the sources regarding his physical transformation that we absolutely have to analyze.
Go on.
He was noted for having supposedly put on 2.5 kilograms of muscle since his arrival. Now, if that is accurate, that is a huge factor in his performance improvement.
It changes everything for a player operating in that central attacking midfield role, the number 7 position he occupied in this match. Wirtz is known for his technical talent, but previously the critique was that he was too easily bodied off the ball.
I remember one fan worried, saying, "I genuinely worry about his physicality and that he needed to toughen up."
So if he genuinely has gained 2.5 kilograms of muscle mass, that extra weight helps him absorb contact, especially when he's receiving the ball under pressure in that congested central channel.
It allows him to turn faster, to hold off challenges, and maintain possession long enough to execute those creative passes. This is absolutely critical for a link player in the demanding Premier League.
And he was instrumental in knitting the team together, acting as that crucial link between the defense and the slightly chaotic front line, including Gakpo.
He was. And despite being unlucky not to register an assist, his display was considered so impressive that he was suggested as a candidate for man of the match. He was only subbed at the 75-minute mark for Curtis Jones.
That substitution probably cost him the MOTM award, but it doesn't detract from the fact that Slot has 2 young players here, Isak and Wirtz, who are showing clear signs of developmental success.
These performances offer a tangible hope that the manager system can, in fact, produce high-quality attacking football when the key components finally start to gel. They are the future stability, contrasted so sharply against the fragile success of the rest of the team. So we have a vital 3 points, a clean sheet, a defensive anchor found in Gomez, and crucial goal contributions from Isak and Gakpo. Let's look at the immediate and, well, dramatic impact this had on the broader Premier League context.
The league table saw a massive immediate jump. Before the game, Liverpool were languishing down in 13th place. A single win against West Ham saw them leapfrog 5 teams directly into 8th place in the table.
It's a huge leap.
They now sit on 21 points after 13 matches.
And that swing is exactly why results are so crucial, regardless of the performance. It instantly changed the narrative from relegation form to mid-table stability, and crucially, the psychological factor is just magnified by how close the table is.
That proximity is the source of the fans' immediate return to high optimism, isn't it? Liverpool are now only 2 points behind Chelsea, who currently occupy that Champions League 4th place slot on 23 points.
Just 2 points.
That small margin, after a run of 3 defeats, is why fans jump straight to that hyperbolic optimism. We are winning the league. Quadruple is on.
And while those predictions are clearly, a bit premature, the proximity is a genuine source of hope. As one fan commented, crazy how close the league is. This dense congestion means that 2 or 3 wins in a row can launch you right into the top 4 conversation, even if your underlying form has been poor.
That's what sustains the excitement and the anxiety in this league. But let's play the devil's advocate here and bring in the cautious viewpoint, which we also found in the sources.
Over it.
You suggested the win by slot time, but I want to challenge that. One fan noted, but today we didn't play that well. We were just a bit more solid and structured and took our chances when it mattered. That's it. Not a brilliant game, just did enough to win. We still need to be much better to go on a good run.
And that caution is entirely rational. They were deserved winners, yes, but the XG suggests they struggled to truly dominate offensively. The critique aimed at Slot is that his system still lacks coherence in possession. They relied on Gomez's defensive stability and Gakpo's moments of individual output.
And that's not a sustainable model for a top 4 club.
It really isn't. So the win was a life raft for Arne Slot. It undeniably buys Arne time and ensures he won't get sacked this week. He achieved the bare minimum required to stop the bleeding.
But the tactical critics are still loud.
They are, and we have to acknowledge that deep frustration. One fan said, "I hate that this buys Arne time. We struggled this entire match and the form still doesn't look any better." This vocal minority, they prioritize consistent, beautiful, dominating performance over points.
So Slot now has the points, but he has not silenced the critics who worry about the quality of the football itself. This is the crucial fracture in the fan base right now, isn't it? Pragmatism versus process.
And the ultimate test of whether this was a true turnaround comes immediately. Fans are already looking ahead to the crucial upcoming fixtures, Sunderland and Leeds. If Liverpool can beat those two teams, given the table density, they could genuinely move into the top three, or at least solidify their position inside the top six.
The next 2 weeks are defining then. The pressure has now shifted from will he be sacked to can they achieve consistency.
And to succeed, Slot needs Wirtz to continue knitting the team together. He needs Isak to build on his goal, and most importantly of all, he needs Joe Gomez to stay healthy. This win was a necessary survival tactic, but the structural flaws identified by the critics are still present and just waiting to be exposed by stronger opposition.
It's all about converting that temporary relief into sustained momentum. So we've taken a deep dive into the 2-0 victory against West Ham, a result that saved Liverpool from facing a near 70-year-old defensive record. The key narratives are undeniable, aren't they?
They are.
The immediate and crucial emergence of Joe Gomez as the defensive anchor, transforming the right-back position and stabilizing the entire defense. And of course, the genuinely polarizing yet decisive nature of Cody Gakpo's paradoxical contribution, scoring and assisting despite a poor overall performance.
And this win has instantly catapulted Liverpool back into the discussion. They've jumped from 13th to 8th, and it puts them just 2 points shy of the Champions League spots. It achieved the crucial result, and it saved Arne Slot from immediate scrutiny. But the performance itself was, let's be honest, far from flawless, and that raises serious questions about sustainability.
So here is the final provocation we want to leave you with. The immediate success of this team now rests on two incredibly fragile pillars. What happens when the Gakpo paradox delivering results despite a broken process runs out of steam?
And can Liverpool truly rely on the defensive bedrock provided by Joe Gomez, a player who has historically and sadly been described as made of paper, to sustain a top-4 challenge?
This victory was built on specific moments of individual brilliance and some much-needed positional discipline. The true structural improvement, though, needs to come from the progressing maturity of players like Florian Wirtz.
So look closely at the upcoming fixtures. Are the wins convincing? Is the system generating more than 0.9 xG against these weaker teams? That is what will tell us whether November 30th was a true turning point toward consistency or if it was just a momentary pause in this season's chaos.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you for joining us as we analyze the fragility and the promise of Liverpool's crucial turnaround. We'll see you next time.